The Royal Marines Defence Aptitude Assessment. How do you go about passing? So one of the first stages of joining the Royal Marines or the Royal Navy is to go through the DAA, or the Defence Aptitude Assessment. Essentially, this just screens for basic intelligence and basic intellect, and the aptitude for learning. This test is split down into a couple of different areas. I'm going to go through each and every one and lay out how best to prepare for each stage of the test. So stage number one is the verbal reasoning test. And this is going to sound super reductive, but it's intended to, essentially the best way to prepare for this is to read. The faster you can read and the more efficiently you can go through text and pick out key information, the better you're going to be at this test. Obviously, you can go through practice questions, which we're going to get to in a minute. However, if you're just looking at globally how to prepare for this test, just putting more reading into your routine, so 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in the evening, make sure you're a little bit quicker at navigating through a paragraph of text, and you're going to be in a better place. Next thing, numerical reasoning, and this is no joke. When I went through this test myself, I was 2 years out of school, hadn't done maths in 3 years, so this was a bit of a challenge. So I had to actually go back and purchase a textbook for the bits of the mathematics that I was going to be faced with and go through learning them again. This is very basic numerical reasoning. It's things like algebra, things like problem solving, things like basic calculations. There's nothing crazy, but if you don't know the mechanisms, you are going to come unstuck. So practicing them is going to be helpful. The next two are going to fall under the same category. So we've got work rate and we've got spatial reasoning. So the way to improve both of these is purely through practice. The work rate is essentially how fast you can work through a certain level of questions to a high standard. And spatial reasoning, as you may have guessed, is how you navigate shapes and effectively figure out how they fit into each other, both from 2D and from 3D. Just purely exposing yourself to practice tests and practice assessments of both of these elements is going to make a huge difference when it comes to test day. Part 5 of the DAA is going to be electrical comprehension. Okay, so effectively how circuits work, essentially basic GCSE level physics. So again, getting a textbook out that probably you have from when you're 15, 14, learning the GCSE stuff, and just familiarizing yourself again with the concept of physics and basic stuff around that. Having the basic knowledge around these things is pretty much all you need, because now we're going to go into practice questions and practice assessments, which actually is what is going to push your score forwards. The final piece of this effectively falls into the same category, okay? So mechanical comprehension, again, you're going to get to grips with the basic concept and then go through practice questions. So in total, there are 6 parts to the DAA. If you navigate through the first element, which is again getting yourself familiarized with the different aspects. So we're looking at verbal reasoning, make sure you read more. Numerical reasoning, make sure you're familiar with the GCSE stuff, etc., like I've just been through. Then the next stage is to practice. So if you go onto the Navy website, which is what I'm on now, effectively there'll be practice questions. However, there are only a few practice tests and they're pretty short in length. So you're going to get maybe exposed to 12, 13 questions, whatever. And that's it. And then you get the same questions every time you go back through. So it doesn't really give you enough variety or enough variance to get really, really good and really confident when it comes to that test. This resource I'm now going to give you is the best thing I found and have passed on to other people as to how to prepare for these tests. Again, these tests aren't super difficult. The pass marks aren't hugely out of the realms of possibility. However, the more confident you can be, as with anything, the better. And effectively, if you can prepare better, you're just going to negate any levels of nerves that you have. So this resource is literally £10.97 on Amazon. It's from the How2Become series. I'll link it down below, okay, on Amazon. There's no affiliation, it's just good, okay? And it's just called the Royal Navy Defence Aptitude Assessment. This includes hundreds of practice questions, practice papers, which is exactly what you need for preparing for this test. If you're in the position where you've just applied for the military and this is looming over you and you're kind of starting to figure out, okay, it's difficult to prep for, there's no real information on how to get around this, purchasing this book, going through it is going to be the number one thing. So as I mentioned at the start, to bring this full circle, we need to be doing the original things, so making sure you have the raw materials to actually go into the practice questions. So reading the numeracy stuff, the physics stuff, all that kind of jazz. And then from there, just plowing through loads and loads of practice questions is going to be your best bet, because the number one thing people fail with this DAA is the speed at which you have to answer the questions. The questions themselves aren't that complicated, but the speed and the pressure is what people struggle with. So having exposed yourself to that, having mocked it up in practice is hugely beneficial. Guys, I hope that's helped, and I'm back with the YouTube content now. I have audio equipment, I now have a camera as well. So I'll be back filming these on a more regular basis. Let me know in the comments what you want to see and what you want help with, and I'll get to making those videos as soon as I can. Hope you've enjoyed that and hope you've taken something from it. If you have, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.